So to kick off, just talk me through the start of your career. Was it Tranmere that your first club was as a young lad?
Yeah, so I come through at Tranmere Rovers. I signed there, God, when I was about 7 years of age. Just so happened I went to a footy college kind of thing with my brother, just a couple of nights a week, and there was a Tranmere coach there, and he asked me to go down, and obviously it just went from there. I stayed there then from the age of 7 to about, I think I was 20 when I ended up getting released. Obviously, I'm fortunate I never made a first team appearance, but enjoyed it. It was a good time. I think it was probably the right time for me to leave as well. But yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. Obviously, met lifelong friends there. But yeah, and then obviously ended up going and playing over in the Republic of Ireland. Signed for Galway United. I had a pal who played for them. Just asked me to come over and see how it'd go. After that, God, it's I'm thinking a long way back. Only feels like a couple of years ago.
Testing your memory.
And then I ended up having no club for 6 months. I came back in the November of that year from obviously playing in Galway. They run a summer league, so I came back from there. Struggled really for another 6 months for a club. Ended up going non-contract up at AFC Fylde for a couple of months. Obviously wasn't getting paid. I was doing that out of my own pocket just to try and keep my hand in it at football and things like that. Was working as a waiter part-time just to see me through it. Then ended up going on trial at Grimsby Town. Didn't get anything. Ended up signing for Barrow on a 1-month contract. Then got let go from there after the manager left. Ended up out of a contract for another 3 weeks, thinking, God, we're 2-3 months into the season now. I'm going to be struggling for a club. And luckily, all of a sudden, Macclesfield picked up the phone and said, look, our keeper's just left. Would you be interested in coming down? Trained on the Friday, signed on the Saturday. And then it was again another month contract. That was coming to a close again. Ended up making my debut in that first month, which was brilliant. Played against Leyton Orient away in front of 4,000 fans, and I was thinking, Christ, 6 months ago I was struggling, panicking, thinking I wasn't going to get a club. Made my debut in front of 4,000 at Leyton Orient, which was a massive day for me. It was something
I play all right, or
I done quite well, yeah. Obviously kept it. I came on after 20 minutes or so. Kept a clean sheet for the rest of the game. We won 1-0, and obviously that season then we obviously as a team at Mac we ended up winning the league, which was great. It was probably one of the best seasons of my life, just being a part of a group. I think I made half a dozen appearances.
What's it like coming on as a sub? Obviously, you've always got to be ready, but you never really expect it, do you, as a goalkeeper to come on like?
Yeah, it's a strange one really, because you end up having, obviously me and Schwan we're really close. He's still one of my closest pals now, who I go to and speak to if I've got anything I need to ask a question about, because he's been there, done it, won a lot of stuff in his career, so he's great to have for advice. And it is a strange one because you do end up having a close working relationship with the keepers who you're working with every day. Like especially last year, I had a great relationship with Danny Rogers, who's now at Kilmarnock. Obviously, Fon Williams, who's now at Dunfermline. We were together from when I was about 16 to got through about 3 years, and we're really close pals. So it's nice. And obviously, Luke Pillen's one of my closest pals, who's from local. We grew up together at Tranmere. So we're really close pals. You do end up having a close working relationship, but you've also got to separate it as the fact that only one of us could play.
Yeah.
And as close as me and say Danny were last year, it's a little bit different with me and Fonners, because Fonners was obviously leaps and bounds ahead. He'd been away with the national team at Wales, so you're always just trying to learn. But obviously last year with me and Danny, it's kind of, well, one of us has got to play. You've kind of got to put your, and we spoke about it because we were near enough the same age, and we just kind of said, look, we're pals, but when it comes down to who's going to play, we're both deadly serious about it. And you end up having a better relationship because you know not one of us is going to try and snake the other behind the back.
Yeah.
If the one's not happy about the other one playing, then you just turn around and go, look, I don't think you've been performing great. I've gone and seen a gaffer to see what I can do to play, and you just take it on the chin.
Fair enough. That's all right. I mean, has it ever, in your whole experience, obviously you've always going to be vying with another keeper, if not two keepers. Has it ever got to the point where it has got a bit too competitive and you're almost not wanting them to get injured, but maybe if they drop a clanger or something, you're like, oh, I might have a chance here. Does it ever get like that?
I'd know certain keepers who are like that. Obviously, I won't name names. I'm not about to cause controversy here, but I know there's keepers who I've heard stories about and ones I've worked with that aren't the nicest of people.
Yeah.
And that are out for their own back. But you kind of you can suss them out quite quickly. The goalkeeping fraternity is quite close, and keepers stick to being with keepers. And the very few and far between. I've been lucky that I've probably only worked with maybe one who I didn't really get on with. But that's kind of this. It's the nature of the beast. There's players who other players won't get along with, and it's just one of them things. I can't say I've had a keeper who's actively gone out to try and disrupt me or try and go behind my back or anything like that. But I would know of people who have.
Yeah, fair enough. So going back to the start of Tranmere, testing your memory here, but I looked on your LinkedIn, you've worked with a few different goalkeeper coaches. So John Atterberg was one of your early ones. What was he like to train with? Because obviously he's pretty legendary within the goalkeeper.
John was brilliant. He was a great guy. He got on with my family really well, and he done so much for me, especially coming through. I was a bit of a chubby kid, and that's why I ended up starting to play in goal.
Yeah.
And literally from the age of 7, I think he was there. He was our coach for about 6 years. Which you think now he's obviously working with the likes of Allison and things like that. And you think, Christ, to have that ground and from somebody who's gone on to achieve so much, gone and won a Premier League medal, Champions League. You think, Christ, it was great grounding to have. He was really, really good for me. He was a great guy. Obviously, he used to run his own glove company as well, which he used to sort all the keepers out at Tranmere. But yeah, it was great, good coach, great coach. Really set the foundations for what I'd become as a keeper. And probably I'm not the most technically fine-tuned keeper. I'm just keep out the net come what may. And he really helped that kind of style grow for me, where it's just, it doesn't matter whether it's your face, your arm, your foot, your knee, whatever it is, just keep it out the net. And it was great for me.
That's good. Where Tranmere, did you have a few loan spells away as well? Did you manage to get some first team?
Yeah, I went. I think I had 4 loans. I went to Berscope, I went to Droylsden, I went to Witton Albion, and I went to Bootle Town. So I had 4 different loan spells away. Some were mixed, some weren't great. Probably the Witton one came a little bit too soon. Didn't really know what to expect and go in there. I'd have been expecting to make my first team debut for Tranmere probably 2-3 weeks before. We had a bit of an injury crisis, and Fonners was away on international duty. I'd been told you're going to make your debut away at Accrington Stanley, and then 2 weeks later I was sent out on loan to Witton Albion. So I don't think probably my head was in the right place to go out on loan, because I was like, I was stuck between thinking, I'm going to make my debut in League Two, I think it was at the time Tranmere were in, and then to be sent out on loan, it was a bit from going from a high to a low, and it was a bit like. So it didn't probably go as well as what I was capable of doing. But again, I went to a team that was obviously at the time they were struggling. Obviously, waiting, I keep tabs on them because obviously haven't played there for a couple of games. Keep tabs on them at the time. We were really struggling. They were probably, I think they were the 3rd from bottom in the league. So I knew I was going into a team that was going to need to battle, and probably was a little bit too soon for me. But again, I took experience from it and learned from it. Then went to obviously Berscope, which was the following year. I think I played about 8-9 games there. Droylsden again, I think I was there for 2.5 months, and then Bootle Town, which was again another interesting loan.
Was Ronnie Moore your manager at Tranmere at the time?
Yeah, Ronnie Moore was the manager when I was coming through as an apprentice. So he was there for my first 2 years, from 16 to 18. He was the first guy who actually put me on the bench, and I had a nice relationship with Ronnie Moore. He was great for me.
He's always took me into, isn't he? Like he's done quite well for them, hasn't
he? Yeah, he's had a couple of spells at Tranmere. He's had obviously a spell at Rotherham, a spell at Hartlepool, and Eastleigh. But no, he was good for me. He always took a chance. He was never concerned on having to put me on the bench, even if I was 16 or 17. He was never. He had the faith to at least put me on the bench, and was like, look, if you need to be called on, you're called upon. I'm not going to turn it down and bring somebody in because you're only 17. He was like, if I need you, you're going on.
That's class.
So it was nice.
Belief in you, like, gives you a bit of a boost.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was great because I was obviously training. I was training a lot as an apprentice. I was training a lot with the first team. For probably, I used to have to do my college work. After like it had finished, I'd go and train with the first team on a Monday. when everybody else was in college. So it was great because I got that little bit of a first team feel from probably 16, from probably the first couple of months of my scholarship. I was in with the first team pretty much after the first 3 months.
Right. And did you actually get a professional contract at Tranmere then? Were you offered pro terms?
Yeah, I spent 2 years as a pro there. Obviously the first year it was the club was in the League Two, and then obviously they got relegated. So my last year was in the conference under Gary Brabham.
Okay. Yeah. Did you once Tranmere got relegated to the conference, did you expect maybe this is my chance? You know, like obviously they'll be like cutting the budget. Maybe I can jump in. They'll put a bit of faith in the youth, or.
It was a bit of a mix because you know how big of a club. Obviously, coming through at Tranmere, I've been at Tranmere games when Leeds United were in League One, and you couldn't. Me and my brother used to go down and watch, and you couldn't get 2 seats together. So you know how big of a kind of club Tranmere is, and obviously you can see that they obviously went up back to back from the conference straight into League One. Obviously they got relegated last year, so you kind of think they're always going to dropping out the league. I knew they were going to try and have a little bit of a push to get back in it. I thought I'd at least get myself on the bench and maybe be number 2. I kind of thought they will look to bring someone more senior in. But obviously I kept myself fit and sharp over the summer to go back in and hit the ground running. And within a couple of days, they brought Scotty Davis in, who was a good keeper. I just thought I was a little bit disappointed because I wanted to try and see if I could crack it. Which you're always going to at 19. You're going to try and have yourself a little bit of confidence and think, I want to give myself a little bit of a go of it. But you kind of knew going into that summer that Tranmere were going to make a push to at least try and get back out of the conference as soon as they possibly, because the big financial hit for the club as well to drop from the league into the conference. So you kind of got to be realistic with your expectations. But at 19, you definitely think, I could possibly crack it. Let me have a go at cracking it. And it's kind of looking back in hindsight, you kind of think I was a little bit naive.
Fair enough. You've got to back yourself, haven't you? So the move to Ireland, then how did that come about? Was that somebody get in touch, contact, or did an agent sort it out? Or
no, so what it was I knew a pal of mine who plays over there. He's now playing for Finn Harps, a guy called Stephen Fowler. We both worked with the same sports psychologist who's based on the Wirral. And obviously just through mutual connections, the sports psych went out to go and work for Galway United to do a bit of work for a week, 10 days. And he obviously knew I was out of contract and looking, and I'd been speaking to people to try and get myself in on trial or whatever. And he said, look, the manager's after a keeper over here. He said, would you be interested? I think that was on the Thursday night or the Friday night, and then phoned me on the Saturday and said, look, they want you to come over. So it was literally book a flight that night. So we booked the flight. He told me about 1 o'clock on the Saturday, and I was on a flight at 8 o'clock to fly over there just for a week. I think the pre-seasons had just about started in England. So I was like, look, I'll go if something comes of it. If not, it's just a week's of training. I got there, and after 2 days, they said, look, we want to offer you a contract to the end of the season, which was obviously November, December for them. So I was like, okay, I'll take it. So I flew home. I think I spent another week at home. I think my mum and dad were actually away on holiday at the time. And I was trying to make this decision of whether to go or not. And in the end, I went, you know what? If it's only for 4 months, it's only for 4 months. I'll go and live over there. So went over and lived over there and played over there. I think I played again another half a dozen games out there in the Irish Prem, and it was brilliant. It was probably one of the most enjoyable times of my career. That I was obviously the first time living away from home, because I'd been used to everything being on my doorstep. And not that Tranmere is like a mollycoddle academy, but you still get your kit given to you. You're obviously, when you're a pro there, you get your boots cleaned and things like that. But going to the League of Ireland, it was like, right, this is your kit. You've got to wash it and you've got to have it dry and ready for training the next day. So it was a little bit of a growing up experience for me. But I loved it, and I've said to my missus at the time now, I've said to her, she's got family that live just a little bit north of Galway, and I said, look, if I could live anywhere, I'd choose to live there, because it's just a beautiful place to live.
Nice. So how did the quality compare to what you're used to? Obviously, growing up with Tranmere and stuff, how did you find the difference in the Irish Prem?
I think the Irish Prem gets a little bit of stick. I think it's a lot higher quality than, obviously, you've got the likes of Dundalk and Shamrock Rovers who regularly compete in Europe.
You're right.
And who lads who, you had the same year I was playing over there was Shawnee Maguire, who was at Cork City.
I'm
who's now obviously playing for Preston in the Championship.
Yeah, he's all right. And we've had a few come over from Ireland, a few hit and miss, but Alan Brown as well. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of boys that end up moving over from the League of Ireland to go and play at a decent level in England. So I think there's probably the standards probably vary to probably the top end of the conference, if not League Two, because there's some clubs that won't be at that standard, but there's certainly the top end clubs that are really pushing it. You look at Dundalk, who are regularly competing in Europe. Like there's certainly a good level of quality over there.
Decent. And did you have any teammates at Galway that have moved over to England or gone on to have decent careers in that time? Or?
From that Galway team, I know obviously my pal Foles, he ended up getting a move to Dundalk off the back. I think it was the following year. I think he moved the following year to Dundalk, done 2 years at Dundalk. But none, I don't think any from my team at Galway had moved over. There was a couple of lads who'd moved back from England to go and play for Galway. A lad called Jesse Devers, who's now at Sligo, or Pats. He'd been at Wolves and ended up coming home to play for Galway. So there was a good level of standard in that team. We'd had Ryan Connolly, who I think had been at Derby and came back to play for Galway. So there was a decent level of obviously player in that squad.
And what was the attendances like? Any decent atmosphere, like big rivalries or anything that you were involved in, or?
Probably the best for me, although it was we got beat by Cork. We played Cork City on telly. That was a big game because it was obviously my first appearance on TV. It was Irish TV, so it was a bit different for me. It was something I hadn't been used to in the past. I'm trying to think what would probably been. Obviously, we played Cork City away 2 weeks prior to that as well, which was strange because their pitch is on a little bit of a slope. So when you're kicking down towards the slope, you feel like everything's on top of you.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest ground we played against over there. That was probably Dundalk away, or probably playing Cork away.
It's good you enjoyed it then, and like you said, if you want to eventually go back over that way, it's nice you've had that experience to eventually go back in the future. So was it Barrow next then?
Yeah, it was Barrow next. So that season then obviously came to a close over here. Ended up, I'd been on trial. I went on trial to Grimsby Town through an agent, and then they turned around, couldn't offer me anything, and I ended up going to Barrow on trial. Ended up played a game and signed. That was when Paul Cox was manager. He said, look, I need you to sign a month. He said, one of our keepers is injured. He said, I need you to sign a month. He said, but we'll extend it till the end of the season. And then Paul ended up leaving after a couple of weeks. Somebody else took over and said, look, we can't offer you a contract. So I'm sat there come the end of the month, like, right, where do I go from here? Because I'm kind of a month into the season. I think we've had 4 games, and I was like, I'm going to struggle to get a club here. Spend the next 3 weeks sitting by the phone thinking, Christ, what am I going to do? Then luckily off my agent phoned and said, Macclesfield want you in tomorrow. And then ended up signing again for a month there, and then till the end of the season after that.
Who was Macclesfield manager at the time then? Was it John Askey?
John Askey, yeah.
Yeah. Was it? He's a bit of a legend, isn't he, Macclesfield way? Was he quite good to work under?
Yeah. He was good to work under. Obviously, the club was in a little bit of trouble at that point. That was probably the start of the trouble that they've obviously ended up being in now. They we went a point where we didn't get paid just before Christmas. We'd had a couple of games called off. We didn't get paid for, I think it was about 10 days. And yeah, so it was good. John obviously had played. I think he played close to 500 games for Macclesfield. He'd had a good career there. But no, it was good. It was a good group to be involved in. It was we probably weren't the closest off the pitch. We were never like all hanging out together or anything like that. But we just had a belief that we could go on the pitch, and even if we were 1-0 down, like there was games where we played Hartlepool away, and I think it was just before their Christmas day. We heard that we'd been 1-0 down up until the 83rd minute and come back and win 2-1.
Yeah,
and like you just kind of think like there was key moments where you kind of thought, Christ, we could actually go and do something a little bit special. Before I signed, they were odds-on favourite to get relegated.
Really?
And obviously, I think I played 6 games for them. Obviously, the lads who played more games done really well, and obviously dragged the club to a promotion, which was really unexpected. But no, it was a good group to be involved in. Obviously, we had a little celebration. We went to Magaluf in the summer of that promotion. It was a good team trip. But no, it was good to be involved. like we've still got a group chat going now from obviously the promotion winning team. So we're all still keeping in contact with one another, which is nice.
That's good. That's good to hear. Yeah, from like 3 years ago. Did you get a winners medal then at the end of that season?
Yeah, I did. I did get a winners medal. My shirt's in my shirt's in the cupboard, but my winners medal's in my drawer with all my precious items.
That's class. That's class. One for the memories, isn't it? So they got promoted, and then.
Well, to be fair, I actually lost my winners medal on the promotion day.
Did you?
To get it replaced.
How did you manage that?
So,
too many beers.
I was obviously we I wish we were on the pitch. We'd obviously all been given our medals. I obviously went and see my family, and I spoke to my family for a little bit. And I was supposed to give my medal to my dad, thinking that he would take it home for me and keep it safe. But I took it back because I wanted to have it on to take a few pictures with all the lads and stuff like that. So once I had clothes that we were going on a night out straight away, so I took the clothes into the changing room. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to put my medal on here on my peg in the changing room, and just leave it here so it doesn't get lost. So put my clothes over it, and somebody must have come in and been having a look in the changing room, and somebody took my medal off my peg in the changing room and just got off with it, because I've come in, been searching through all the bins, all the clothes, all the racks and everything to try and find it, and it disappeared. And luckily enough, while I was away, John Askey was away with us and a couple of members of staff, and he said, look, he said, I know you've obviously, your medal's gone missing, gone walkabout. He said, the club will sort you another one out. He said, so you're not left without one. So that's the medal version 2.
That's good than that to give you another one. I bet whoever nicked it's been sat at home for the last 3 years just wearing that medal around the house, like buzzing with.
I know. I hope they're proud of themselves.
I suppose, like if it was like a Macclesfield fan or something, you'd probably think there's a good chance here. I'll just nab it. And they've got away with it, haven't they?
Yeah.
So promotion then, was the talk of you extending your stay at Macclesfield, or were they just investing, like going for it, trying to stay up in obviously League Two? Was the discussion of the contract?
Well, there was. We ended up, obviously went to Magaluf for promotion. We came back and we were all kind of sitting by the phone waiting to see what was going to happen, because there's a rule in the conference that you've got to let players know within the last 2 weeks after the last game of the season. So obviously our last game, and then we've been to Magaluf, and I was waiting by the phone and nothing came up about anything. And then next minute get a phone call and say, look, we're not extending your deal. He was like, I need somebody who's got experience of playing in League Two. Find out a couple of days later, John Askey's actually left. So we were all obviously, I was out of contract at this point. Yeah, we went to Shrewsbury. I was out of contract at that point. A couple of weeks later, get a phone call from the new manager who took in charge at Mac, who was Mark Yates. He was Solihull manager, and I'd obviously played a game against Solihull when he was obviously Solihull manager. And he said, look, I want you to come in. He said, and come in on trial. He said, we'll take a look at you and see how you do, obviously, to go into League Two. So I was like, okay, I'll take a chance on it. Went in. I think I was in for a week or 10 days, something like that. And he turned around, he said, look, I've got an experienced number 2 who can come in. He said, I'm going to have to take him. He said, because he's got league experience. And I was like, okay. I said, fair enough. So at least you haven't wasted my time. I've only been in for 10 days. Yeah. I said, that's fine. And then I had the offer to go to Alfreton Town. Billy Heath Billy Heath spoke to my agent and was like, look, played against Sam last year for Halifax because he was Halifax manager. He said, look, can Sam come in? He said, we've got a game on Saturday, we're playing Chesterfield. He said, can he come in? He said, see how he does. He said, and if he does all right, he said, we'll offer him something. So I went down to Alfreton, which was like Derbyshire way.
Just that time look where it is. It's one of those teams you hear, but I'm never quite sure where Alfreton is.
Yeah, it was a little bit new for me because obviously I'm based on the Wirral, so we were training in Doncaster, and then obviously we play our games in Derbyshire. Because a lot of lads were from like either Birmingham or some were from Hull, so we trained in Doncaster, which again I was doing 3-hour round trips to training. I was doing 3 hours there, 3 hours back. So sometimes, it was a bit of a long season. We trained Monday, Thursday nights, and then playing on a Saturday. So yeah, and then it was lucky really. I was covering 1,000 miles a week in my car, and then a couple of boys signed from Manchester, so it was ideal. I could jump in with them and obviously share the lifts and things like that. But that season was great for me because I obviously went and played 50 games, probably all in league appearances and cup appearances and things like that. So it really jumped up my CV. It was something that I needed. It was like I'd had offers to go into a couple of clubs on trial. A couple of places wanted to take a look. And I was like, if I go to somewhere that was in the Football League on trial, I was like, I'm not going to play. I'm not going to have a season full of games. I was like, I'm at the point now, I think I was what, 23, 22, 22. I was like, now's the kind of point for me to go and prove myself and go, you know what, I can go and play 50 games at a level and kick on from there. So yeah, that was what I went and did. Went and played 50 games for Billy Heath, and he was great with me. He was great. I had the 100% backing from him, 100% faith to go, you know what, you can do it. And even if I can remember certain games where I hadn't played too well, and Billy had just come over and go, look, you know, you're my number one. Go and prove it. Go and do what you can do. He was like, I've got the faith. And he said, don't worry about, if I make a mistake, I'm going to be pulled out. So there's patches of form probably that season where I didn't do too great, probably towards the back end where I was thinking it's been a long season. I'd probably hit just over 40 games. And I was like, just wanted the end to come a little bit because we knew we couldn't hit the playoffs and things like that. And probably my form dipped a little bit towards the end of the season from what it had been. But I still had the complete backing of Billy, and Billy was just saying, look, go and show us what you're capable of. And again, it was great for me because it's bumped my CV right up.
Did you go in as first choice, or did you quickly establish yourself? He brought you in. That's good, that, isn't it? So we played against him, and he was happy enough to get you in straight away as number one in that league.
Mm-hmm. Like they had two keepers already at the time, and my agent had sent something round to like Conference North clubs to say, look, we've got a keeper who's still looking. This was a week or so before the start of the season. And Billy phoned and said, look, we'll take him. We just wanted to play on Saturday, and they already had two keepers. So I turned up at this game thinking, why is he wanting me if he's already got two keepers? Yeah. Put that out of my head, played the game, and he was like, look, he said, we'll take you, we'll get it sorted the next 2 days. And it was done the Tuesday before the start of the season. So I was in and thingy, and what ended up one of the keepers left probably 6 weeks into me being there. And then I was traveling to and from. It was a long season come the end of it, like, because obviously I was covering 1,000 miles a week.
Yeah,
but it was good. I enjoyed it. The ups and downs of playing week in, week out. There's nothing that can beat it.
The keeper who was your number two then at Alfred, were they younger than you and older than you? Was it weird for you to suddenly be like the number one and trying to help them out, and they're pushing you? It's like the roles had switched for the first time in your career.
It was a little bit strange for me. Tommy Nick, who was the number two at Alfred, and he was a good lad. He was great for me. Like I can remember games where I might have been having a pop and somebody having a pop at me in the changing room, and Tommy Nick would always step in and defend me, like, because we didn't have a keeper coach, so there was nobody to back my corner. It was either me or him who would have to do it. So and I can remember there was numerous times he'd step in and defend me. So he was a good guy. I think he was last at Gainsborough, possibly. I can't remember. But he was a good keeper as well. He was great with his feet. But it was kind of strange as well, just kind of running your own goalkeeper sessions. Obviously, I was coaching at the time with kids and things like that. So I was having to put on my own sessions for myself, and it was a little bit strange because we were doing 2 nights a week, and I was like, this is all new to me.
What did you do then? Just literally get into just sort of like kick balls at you? Like, have you got any coaches to do anything for you? Just literally doing it all yourself?
So we were basically on our own. The finances of the club were short, and they weren't able to get a keeper coach in to do anything for us. So we were kind of told, look, you've got 45 minutes, go and do what you need to do. So lucky enough, I'd obviously had keeper coaches for the last 3-4 years, so I knew sessions I could put on. I was coaching. I was running a coaching school up on the Wirral a couple of nights a week, so it was always kind of dipping my hand into doing coaching. So it was never really too much of a problem.
Fair enough. And then at the end of that season, was there a chance to stay on, or were you just sick of the travel? Do you want just a bit of a change, or?
I was a little bit fed up with the travel. I'd kind of me and Billy had discussed it, and Billy knew my intentions were trying to get back into full-time football. That was always the aim. That was what we discussed at the start of the season. I was like, look, I said I'm willing to drop to part-time. I said, but I want to do it for a year and get myself back into full-time football. I said, that's my aim. I said, that's what I know I'm capable of. That's what I still believe I'm capable of. And Billy was like, okay, I understand that. He was like, look, if the opportunity comes for a club that's interested at any point, he said, I'll let you go. He said, I won't hold on to you for a massive fee. He was like, I'll let you go if somebody comes in and the offer's right. He said, you can go. And then we obviously nothing came in the January. Come the end of the season, me and Billy discussed it, and he was like, look, he said, I'll let you go. He said, I'll let you walk. He said, so there's no problems. He said, I couldn't probably offer you the money that you'd want to be able to stay. He said, we've had to cut the budget anyway. He said, there's going to be a massive turnaround in the club because Alfred had paid good money that season to try and push to get back into the conference because they'd come out of it a couple of years before. So we'd had obviously Tom Denton, who was obviously now at Chesterfield. He was a great player for us, and the club had done well to get the squad they had, but we hadn't made the playoffs and we hadn't pushed on to do as well as we probably should have with the squad we had. So there needed to be a budget cut, and he said, look, he said, I can't offer you the money you'd want to keep you part-time to enable you to travel to and from. He said, I know you're pushing to get back full-time anyway, so he said, I'll let you walk, and that was that. And then luckily enough, a couple of weeks later, I know the old keeper coach of mine, Dave Timmins, who I was with at Tranmere, done my last probably 3 years while I was at Tranmere, 4 years maybe while I was at Tranmere, from when I was 15 till we got relegated from League Two, so probably 4 years. He took the job with David Hopkin up at Greenock Morton. He was like, look, he said, we're after a keeper. He said, would you be interested? And I was like, he said, obviously I've seen you play this season. He said, you've gone and played 50 games. He said it was what your CV needed. He was like, I'll speak to the gaffer, see if I can bring you in. And that was probably a couple of days before I went on holiday, and then got a phone call while I was sitting on the beach drinking a cocktail. And he said, look, he said, would you be interested in coming in and signing? And I was like, yeah. I said, I'm away on holiday till I think it was the following Tuesday. I said I can come up Wednesday, Thursday that week. But I was then going away with my mates. So I'd been away with my ex-partner in Skiathos, and me and her had been away, and then we flew back. I went up to Greenock on the Thursday, signed, come back down, and then flew away with my mates on the Friday night. But I was thinking, obviously, going away with my mates, I was thinking I'll come back and I'll have probably 2 weeks to get myself fit, because thinking I was trying to go in somewhere in England. Next minute, I came home from Tenerife with my mates, and 2 days later, I was needed in pre-season training.
Yeah,
so
that was rough.
It wasn't probably ideal plan. In hindsight, I should have cancelled the holiday and just took a hit on it. But I'd been through a lot that season while I was playing part time. With things off the field, like I'd lost my granddad, who I was super close with, and it had a lingering effect on me.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna enjoy my time off in the summer. I've been through a lot. There's a lot of traveling, and I still every day wear my granddad's chain. Oh. So I'd been through a lot. There'd been a lot going on at home. I was like, I think I need to go and just decompress. For obviously been away with her, and then came back and went away with the lads. And in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have done it. I probably should have just said, you know what, I've got 3 weeks to get myself right as rain to go in. But you make the decisions you make in the time. I think I needed a little bit for my own mental health sake. I needed a little bit of a blowout, and that was what I went and done. But
yeah,
it is what it is.
It's important to sort yourself out up there as well as it is like your actual fitness levels, isn't it? So no, I wouldn't regret it.